Commerce side, and Mike and Charday will be assisting on the House side.
Amelia Kovar-Donahue with the Revisor's Office, and I will be assisting with the Senate Commerce Committee this year.
Connie Burns, Committee Assistant for the Senate side.
Cindy Harris, Committee Assistant for the House side.
Thank you. Should we go ahead and have the members introduce themselves, you think? If you would, we'll start. Introduce yourself, members. Thank you.
Sure. Stephen Owens, come to you from the House. Been there 6 years. First term as a Senate, served 31st Senate District, which includes all of Harvey County and northern Sedgwick County.
Senator Mary Ware from Sedgwick County. This will be my 3rd year on Commerce, and it's been a great committee. Thanks.
Stephanie Sawyer Clayton. I am from Johnson County, represent parts of Overland Park, Leawood, and Prairie Village, and I've been on Commerce longer than I can count. I would have to think and see how long I've been on this committee. Glad to be back.
Tori Marie Blue, Senator from the 33rd District, which is Central and Western Kansas. This is my 2nd year in Commerce.
Jeff Klemp, Senate District 5, Leavenworth and Wyandotte County, and this is my first day.
All right, that's 38th District, Southwest Kansas. That's enough.
Representative Mike King from the House District 74, which is Harvey, parts of McPherson and Marion County, and I'm an incoming freshman.
Ethan Corson, Senate District 7, which is Northeast Johnson County.
Sean Wilcott, House District 62, which is Nemaha, Brown, and Northern Jackson counties. This is my first year on this committee.
Representative Mary Lynn Poskin, House District 20 in Leawood and Overland Park in Johnson County. This will be my 3rd fun year on Commerce.
Jill Ward, House District 105, Northwest Wichita.
Representative Laura Williams, House District 30, parts of Lenexa and Olathe in Johnson County.
Senator Karen Tyson, 12th District. I represent 8 counties on the eastern side of the state.
Representative Christy Williams, 77th District, Butler County, and I think this is my 8th year on Commerce.
Representative Bill Sutton, District 43, which is Southwest Johnson County.
Cluse, right here, 3rd District.
Representative Lynn Melton, District 36, and that's Western Wyandotte County to 7 Highway.
Ken Corbett, 54th District.
Kenny Titus, Senate District 18, Pottawatomie, Shawnee, and Jefferson counties.
Brenda Dietrich, Senate District 20, Southwest Shawnee County, Olive-Benson County.
Representative Adam Turk, 117th District, Western Johnson County and Douglas County.
Representative Tom Kessler from Wichita area, and this is my 5th year on Commerce.
Reese Shu, House District 25, Northeast Johnson County.
Hi. Dan Osman, Representative District 48, that's in Overland Park in Johnson County, and this is my 3rd year as a Commerce fan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean Tarwater, Stillwell, Kansas. I've been on Commerce for 9 years and chaired it for 7. Thank you.
I'm Senator Larry Alley. I'm from Winfield, Kansas. This is my 5th year on Senate, but it's not been concurrent. So I started out in 16 and then moved on. So this is my first year this time on the Commerce this year. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being on the committee. The first thing we're going to do, number one, as far as the Senate, and I don't know about the House, but we are paperless. So when we have our Senate meetings, we will be paperless, so bring your laptops with you. About the House? Same on the House. So the first thing we do, review our interim committee reports. We had 2 that are know of interim committees. in 2024. One was on the foreign trade and the regulatory sandbox. Do we have a report on that? Would you like to give us a short report on that? Yes. Yes. Senator Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the House members, for those of you that are new to the committee, we are paperless. If you log in with your computer, you can find all the documents on the S drive. And if you need some help with that, just raise your hand and we'll send somebody over there to make sure that you can review the document. Thanks.
Okay. So if you could go ahead.
Thank you, chairs. Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Mike Ditch with the Kansas Legislative Research Department. I'll be reviewing two special committees from the 2024 interim available in Forwarding Housing and Foreign Trade and Regulatory Sandbox. The Available and Forwarding Housing Special Committee met for 2 days and was directed to study several topics. You should have the full report in front of you in PDF. I just wanted to direct your attention to a few of the topics of interest to today's committees, and these include the following. Home ownership with an emphasis on housing priced less than $200,000 and the availability of such housing in the state. Rental housing issues, including availability of affordable rental housing. The relationship between affordable housing and economic development, specifically considering the concerns of the workforce, home builders, and businesses creating jobs in Kansas, and possible incentives for small businesses that purchase and remodel homes, including policies used by other states. There were other topics that were addressed, including population-specific housing challenges and looking at housing law and policies in Kansas and other states. There were recommendations made by the committee. I'd like to call out a few specific recommendations. The first one being reviewing how housing incentives and tax credits can be used concurrently, as well as the benefits and detriment of such a practice. Further studying fast-tracking permits and the adoption of the recommendations contained within the Pacific Legal Foundation testimony, and passing a bill with the language contained in HB 2832 from 2024 as introduced, pertaining to the transferability of the Kansas Housing Investor Tax Credit. I would refer you to the committee report in minutes to look at other topics addressed, recommendations made, and testimony provided during that special committee. The Foreign Trade and Regulatory Sandbox Committee met on those two topics. Regarding foreign trade, the committee was directed to study Kansas's level of foreign trade, compare Kansas's foreign trade to other states, and identify Kansas industries and products that may be available for foreign trade and the possible nations to solicit for such trade. Presentations included the Kansas Small Business Development Center, IBG Global, the Greater Wichita Partnership, and the Kansas Agriculture and Commerce Departments. For recommendations, the committee recommended for foreign trade that the legislature explore opportunities to educate businesses about how the state can help them with foreign trade, encourage Kansas business development entities and relevant agencies to increase outreach and education through innovative new ways regarding economic opportunities for Kansas business and the next generation of Kansans, and also to identify and monitor ways to capture information related to foreign land holdings in Kansas. The committee also recommended a briefing, as requested by the relevant chairpersons, to be provided to legislative leadership and both chambers' Agriculture and Commerce committees on any identified threats to Kansas from foreign adversaries pertaining to international trade and foreign influence. For regulatory sandboxes, the committee was directed to study the nature and operation of regulatory sandboxes, advantages and possible challenges of regulatory sandboxes, and success of regulatory sandboxes in other states and how they may apply in Kansas. Presentations included the Libertas Institute, Americans for Prosperity, Kansas Office of the Attorney General, and the Utah's Office of Regulatory Relief. After those presentations, the committee made the following recommendations. The formal opinion be requested of the Attorney General on the constitutionality of regulatory sandboxes in Kansas. Any regulatory sandbox program adopted in Kansas be generally applicable and not limited to a specific industry, and that any legislation enacting a sandbox program provide for the administering agency the ability to consult with the relevant experts when considering program applicants. The committee recommended the 2025 legislature pursue legislation to implement a regulatory sandbox program in Kansas and incorporate the relevant recommendations previously mentioned. So that's a brief overview of the two interim committees. Appreciate your time. I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. Before we move on, I forgot one thing, and that was, are there any bill introductions? Yes, we do have one. Come please to the podium and state your name, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Rachel Willis, Legislative Director for the Department of Commerce. I have one today, RS 0140. It's our tourism cleanup bill.
And what chamber are you going to introduce that to?
The House.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Is there any objection?
Seeing no objection, we'll accept it.
We'll move on. The second item that we had, I think we had, we're going to have another meeting of these, the joint meeting, and that's going to be on Thursday. We have another. Oh, okay. Eric, could you give us a rundown on the bills from past session?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. You should have a document in front of you that is a table of bills from last session. It's titled Commerce Committee's 2024 Session Bill Activity. There's kind of a lot of information there, so just I'll kind of give you an overview of how the table is structured, and then I'll kind of proceed from there. But this includes bills that were either enacted or that had substantial action in one committee or the other. Either there was a committee recommendation or at least a hearing. So this would not include bills that were introduced and referred to one of the two committees, but didn't have a hearing, for example. But if you just look at the column names, I've got a short topic for each bill, and then House and Senate hearing dates, House and Senate final action with the vote counts, and then if there was final action in a conference, related to conference, those are the right two columns. And there are a couple of acronyms, concurred with amendments or concurred with amendments in conference. You can see in the right two columns. And then to the right, there's a little colored icon that indicates whether the bill went through the House Commerce Committee, the Senate Commerce Committee, or both, just for your reference. And so, yeah, I recognize that this is a lot of information, but hopefully this will be helpful, and you can refer to this if you want to look back at what was done last session. There were 10 enacted bills, so each row has one bill kind of at the end state. Some of them have sub-bills that are listed as sub-items because either the provisions ended up in the ultimate version of the bill or is relevant for when the hearing date was. Some bills had a mirror, but those 10 enacted bills were related to the special session bill, HB 2001, which had to do with the professional sports teams, relocation incentives, and the star bonds modifications that was passed during the special session this past summer. SB 143 included modifications to the Elevator Safety Act. That was a bill that went through the House only, and then it was a different subject matter in the Senate side that heard that bill. SB 333 was related to hiring preferences for persons with disabilities. Those provisions were ultimately referred to as Kathy's Law or Kathy's Bill. And then extension of the State Use Law Committee, which was originally in another bill. SB 430 was the Workers' Compensation Act modifications. That passed both chambers unanimously. And HB 2483, which was enacted, eliminated certain audit requirements. So this is actually something that is relevant to the Commerce Committees because some of the audits that were previously required related to EcoDevo programs. So there formerly was a requirement that EcoDevo programs be audited after a year after the program had been implemented and no later than 2 years after the program had been implemented. That requirement has been modified so that if either of the committees wants to hear an audit on that topic, it needs to be requested after the program has been in place for 4 years and no later than 5 years. So that's just something to be mindful of for certain audits of new EcoDevo programs. The goal of that was to get away from having programs be audited before there were any real results. And so that's kind of the reason for that. And also, it still is the case that any member or committee can request an audit from LPA at any time. So that's just for your information. But that was HB 2483 that updated the audit requirements. Additional bills that were enacted, there were modifications to the Self-Service Storage Act, and then unemployment, or the Employment Security Act. That was another bill that passed both chambers unanimously. There were some rules and regulations, authority provisions in HB 2648, 2745 related to occupational licensure fees exemption for military spouses, and then oversight of professional employer organizations was transferred from the Insurance Department to the Secretary of State in HB 2790. And then the contents of sub for HB 2598 were included in CCR 2562, and those related to cease and desist orders for the Kansas Real Estate Commission and classifying certain practices as deceptive. 3 additional bills out of Commerce had vetoes that were sustained. Those were related to the Kansas Land and Military Installation Protection Act, which had to do with property interests held by countries of concern, and then a similar bill related to prohibiting acquisition of drone technology components from countries of concern. That was SB 271. HB 2446 had to do with the regulation, prohibiting local regulation of plastic containers. And then one additional bill that HB 2545 that had tax credits for both members and employers of members of the Kansas Army and Air National Guard. That ended up in CCR 2097 with a couple of other tax provisions, and that bill was vetoed and sustained. And then 2 bills were left in conference. These had to do with child care licensing requirements in SB 96. And then SB 467 had to do with the membership for the Governor's Council on Travel and Tourism, and some tourism promotion matching grant modifications related to a program within the Department of Commerce, and the creation of a Wyandotte County Port Authority. Those were all in SB 467. And then on the back page, the remaining bills were bills that just had hearings but didn't progress beyond that. Yeah, I'll stand for questions at this time.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We appreciate that update. Next thing on our agenda would be review of our committee rules. Those are online, basically in the Senate side and also on the House side. Please review those. And if there's any questions, you can let us know on that. Representative Tugwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the House side, the rules aren't complete yet. We haven't been dictated what we're going to have as our rules in our committees, and so that should be here by the end of this week or early next week. Thank you.
So any questions? Okay, thank you. As you see, we have a joint meeting of the House and the Senate for Commerce. And so we have taken advantage of the time that we can meet together, and we're going to have joint meetings for testimony from various organizations. So what we have scheduled, again, we'll not have a meeting tomorrow, but on Thursday, we'll have a joint meeting, and that will be with House Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development, and also a presentation on Network Kansas, and a presentation from K-State 105. And so that'll be on Thursday. We had scheduled a joint meeting on Friday that seemed to be not real popular. So we're going to reschedule that until a week from Thursday, and that was with the legislative post-audit, and give us a breakdown on legislative post-audit, and then about the Department of Commerce pre-employment screening and evaluating the Department of Commerce economic development transparency. We also have, excuse me, we also have another meeting later on in the month. I think it's the 27th, and that was for a meeting on economic development and a ranking of where Kansas falls with the on the overall United States economic development. So those are the things we have scheduled in the next month and for joint meetings. And is there anything else to be brought before the committee? Okay. Department of Labor is on Monday? Tuesday, and Department of Commerce, Wednesday. Okay. Correction, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, and we are adjourned.